if you were betting on the Jets cutting Le'Veon Bell going into the season, and I'm sure somewhere, somehow, there would have been a prop bet that you could make, the over-under on when the Jets would cut Le'Veon Bell. I thought they would trade him. They probably thought so too, Charean. They tried. They failed. He's now officially out. It's something that if you had told us before or back in early 2019 when he signed with the Jets that it wouldn't last even a season and a half, we'd all been shocked if we had been informed that was going to happen. But here it is. He's out, and now he can go wherever he wants.
It's crazy. And I guess at some point you just realize enough is enough and you move on. We've seen it with AB. And it's amazing these Steelers players all leave and fail elsewhere. It tells you what a good job I think that Mike Tomlin did in Pittsburgh when he had both AB and Le'Veon Bell, because they became too much for their teams to handle. And in AB's case, multiple teams to handle. And they've moved on. But it's going to be really interesting, I think, to see where Le'Veon lands. We all thought when Earl Thomas got cut, he's going to have all these opportunities, and nothing. I mean, crickets now with Earl Thomas. We almost forget he's out of the league. So who's going to jump on the Le'Veon Bell train and think he can help them? That'll be interesting.
Well, and remember when Leonard Fournette was cut by the Jaguars, we didn't know how long he would be available. Once it started to get out that the Patriots may have interest, and the fact that it got out means they never had interest because it never gets out. When the Patriots are interested in someone, they just sign it because they tell everyone involved. If it gets out, we're out. Once that got out, though, Fournette lands with the Buccaneers. And some people in the league think that Bell will end up with the Patriots. I don't know about that, but there are teams that could use him. I'm still surprised, Charean, that they didn't squat on Le'Veon Bell in New York until the trade deadline, because you've got week 6, week 7, week 8. Running back suffers a serious injury at some point over the next 3 weeks. All of a sudden, there's a market for Le'Veon Bell when there wasn't one before. And it just tells me how bad it is or was between player and team. And also, with their Miami game shifted around and their bye week moved from week 11 to week 10 as part of the fallout of rescheduling the Broncos-Patriots game, Adam Gase now has 4 chances left to win a game before it's a done deal, if it isn't already, that he's out at week 10. And there are some games coming up that I think they could easily lose of the next 4. I think they could lose all of them. They should lose all of them. It's Dolphins. I think it's Chiefs, Bills, and maybe Patriots before the bye. So to the extent that playing the game of keeping Le'Veon Bell around was going to create some sort of a distraction that would have made it harder to win, let's just cut the cord. Let's just move on. Who cares if we would get a 7th-round pick? Gase isn't going to be there to use it anyway if they don't win a game. So see you later, Le'Veon, and let's focus on the guys who want to be here.
And, Mike, I think I've slowly come over to MDS's, Michael David Smith, our coworker. I've come over to his side that running backs are a dime a dozen. I mean, look at what's gone on in Carolina without Christian McCaffrey. They've done just fine without him. And it just seems like you can find running backs anywhere and plug them in. And there's some really good ones you can get late in the draft, or you can get in free agency for cheap, or you can whatever. I mean, they're all out there, and there's a ton of them. So to go pay a running back a lot of money, and I realize in Le'Veon's case, they're not even going to have to pay him a lot of money because the Jets still owe him this money. But to pay a running back a second contract maybe just isn't worth it. Maybe that's what we're seeing here in some of these cases when you go look at Todd Gurley and you now look at Le'Veon Bell and some others we've seen. Ezekiel Elliott, frankly, hasn't lived up to his contract in the year in 5 games that he's been in that contract.
There aren't many teams that are happy with the second contract that they've given to a running back. The Vikings and Adrian Peterson may be the lone exception. That one still didn't run all the way through conclusion, unlike a quarterback contract would do. And the problem is you create a superstar early in his career. The fans are going to be very upset. The people who buy the tickets aren't happy if the guy's not there anymore. That's why having multiple running backs is the best way to go, because you never create that one guy that everybody buys the jersey and every kid wants to be him. And the end result is you get backed into a corner and you have to pay him when maybe your best play would be to let him walk away or finish his rookie contract, do the franchise tag 1 year, and then move on from the player. And that's what the Steelers did. Now the Steelers could move back in. You know, there are other teams that could be interested, Matt Nagy, the coach of the Bears, didn't rule it out earlier this afternoon. The coach of the Eagles, Doug Peterson, seemed to, but I think somebody will sign him at some point, and if not, he just waits. And you wait because at some point, some running back is going to get injured. We know that, and it's going to open the door for Le'Veon Bell. The door is now closed on Bell with the Jets. Here's Adam Gase, the head coach from earlier today, on the question of whether or not Bell was misused in the Jets offense.
Do you agree with the perception that you misused him?
It's irrelevant at this point.
Yeah, but Adam, when a team makes a free agent investment that large and it ends before 2 seasons, I think the fans are interested in knowing why it didn't work out with a player of that stature.
Yeah, it didn't work out. It didn't work out, and we're going to focus on this game right now.
Now, other coaches with more accomplishments on their resume would say that, and nobody would say boo. Adam Gase says it, and the people out there who don't like him automatically start blaming him. But you know what? It is irrelevant whether or not he was misused. Here's the problem, and I think Gase is trying to protect some people in this regard. The problem is they never should have signed him for the money they signed him for. Their offense wasn't ready for a running back. Their offense wasn't a running back away from being a great attack. And you don't go out and add a great running back when you don't have an offensive line, when you don't have a quarterback who's at the point where you say, yeah, that's a potential franchise guy, and when you don't have the receivers. It can't be a one-man show unless it's Barry Sanders. And Le'Veon Bell is not Barry Sanders, where he can get 100 yards a game without any help around him like Sanders consistently did. You need more. And to pay $13.5 million a year when there was no one else north of $10 million. They got duped by the notion that the Ravens were going to pay Bell in that stratosphere. And my sense is that people in the organization were trying to tell McCagnon, you're the subject of a ruse here, but they still were determined to pay $13.5 million a year. This thing was doomed from the start. The offense was never good enough to get the most out of Bell, and they paid him too much money. And once it got out that Gase thought they paid him too much money, that poisoned the relationship by all appearances between Gase and Bell.
And that's been the problem, Mike, is this is a bad offense and it's not a good team. And when you start looking at players on that team that you would take to build a team around, there just aren't many of them. And Sam Darnold's not one of them either, which is why they face many, many problems. But this just seems like a team that's been circling the drain for a long time, and they may actually be flushed after this year because probably going to have a new head coach. And I can already see the headline in the New York Post is probably going to repeat what Adam Gase just said. It, didn't get the job done, didn't work out, I think were his exact words. So didn't work out because this probably isn't going to work out for him. They'll have a new coach, maybe even a new GM, who knows, but they're a long way off from being a good team. And you're right. You don't go sign a running back when you're a long way off.
The one thing that doesn't get discussed nearly enough, and I don't understand why, the idea that Woody Johnson may be back sooner rather than later from his assignment as the U.S. ambassador to the U.K. He could tell everybody, go. He could tell his brother, get out of here. You made a mess of this. I'm taking over again, and we're going to see what we can do. And people think Joe Douglas is permanently safe. I don't get it because Douglas was Gase's handpicked guy. So if Douglas is golden, his opinion on Gase should be golden too, and Douglas isn't going to want Gase to go because Gase picked Douglas. And that's just a weird dynamic that doesn't get discussed enough either. So who knows? Who knows? Maybe Gase gets another chance to try to rebuild this thing. At some point, though, the fact that the Panthers are thriving as they rebuild makes it look horrible for the Jets to be as bad as they are. And again, 4 more games until the bye. And if they don't get a win in the next 4 weeks, I think it could be end of the road for Gase during the season.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.